first fuel type I'm going to be using today is methyl hydrate inside the alcohol burner. I've got a cup of water. Now it's very important to note that you can't actually put the lid on the mug when you're boiling your water, because otherwise it will shrink. The first iteration was really bad for that. They've actually made some improvements since then, and they've changed the compound that they use, and they've added some ribs, so the shrinking's not quite as bad, but you definitely need to be aware of that, and it's best not to put it on there when you're boiling. To prime it, we need to put some fuel in the base. And also some fuel on the top. You can see I've got some fuel spillage here, which is why I've actually put it on a rock. It's going quite nicely now. We'll add our windshield. If you look at the windshield, you've actually got some little vents at the bottom, and the idea is that you put the windshield around the stove with the vents facing away from the wind. We put our mug into the base of the cooker, and then we'll start the timer, see how long it takes to boil. As you can see, we've got a good rolling boil coming up on 7 minutes 50 seconds. You can lift it off easily. The heat resistant tape works very, very well. The next fuel type I'm going to try using is esbit cubes. Now you can break these up, and if you do that the flame will burn hotter, but it won't last for as long. Virtually impossible to get started with the fire steel, so don't even try. It does make them easier to light if you break off the corner though, like this. So it's going quite well. Put our windshield on. Have a mug of water. And again we'll start our timer. I don't know if you can see that. So we're coming up on 8 minutes and 30 seconds, and we've got a good rolling boil. Now, I'm actually going to use a glove to lift the mug off this time, because there's still some quite large flames coming off the side of the stove, and while the tape might be heat resistant, my fingers aren't. We've still got a little bit of fuel left. So as you can see, one esbit tablet is more than enough to boil a mug of water. Another type of fuel you can use is wood. I've got some twigs piled up inside the stove with a small layer of birch bark to help with the initial combustion, and I'm going to try and use this Tinder Quick from the survival kit. Obviously the main drawback to this is you can't use the windshield as well, and you have to stay with it to keep feeding in fuel. So I didn't quite get it to a rolling boil. It was just starting to bubble when it started to rain quite heavily, which made it impossible to keep the fire going. I had to run in and throw my camera in under somewhere dry, and by the time I got back it had gone out. But it does work. You just need to make sure that you keep feeding fuel into it. Because of the small surface area of the stove, the fuel that you put in there burns very quickly, so you need to keep replenishing it. But yeah, it does work, so with a never-ending supply of fuel, your stove should be good for weeks and weeks. Overall, the stove system performed very, very well. I like it a lot. It actually saved my ass this morning. It was very, very, very cold, and the jets on my white gas stove were clogged, so I couldn't get any water boiling. So I used the GearPods stove system to boil up some water, get a good hot drink inside me, get me nice and warm, so I could take my stove apart and unclog the jets. So if you're watching this, James, good job. The stove system has no mechanical points of failure, unlike the white gas stoves. So as long as you've got fuel for it, it works fantastic. Definitely recommended.